There's no Space Marine chapter that is more hated than the Ultramarines. And they're hated for varying reasons, but the most important one is that it's natural to hate your betters. Joke aside, the Ultramarines are really this focus point of hatred for many Space Marine fans and I guess Warhammer fans in general. They don't like the Ultramarines, and if you're new to Warhammer, you might want to ask yourself, why are the Ultramarines so hated? Why are they so hated? It just doesn't make sense. One of the best answers to that is the fact that technically they're the poster boy. When you go to buy your box of Primaris, I'm not calling them Space Marines. When you go to buy your box of Primaris, they're all blue, and it makes sense because blue is an easy color to paint. And that's why it makes sense to sell them as the archetypical thing that you can make out of the box. Now, of course, red and green are also very easy colors to paint. Black as well. We're not talking white or yellow, which are way harder to do. So, that's not really a good reason, is it? It might sound logical, but why are they like this? Well, most of the hatred for Space Marines comes from the 5th edition, thanks to one author named Matt Ward. Now, Matt Ward is a person that everybody hates. If you know something about wrestling, imagine that Matt Ward is the Vince Russo of Warhammer. Matt Ward was very biased towards what he liked, and he liked two things: the Grey Knights, which based, and Ultramarines. One of the things that Matt Ward did with Ultramarines is that he made the whole Codex compliant thing. For example, technically every chapter had their own organization and so on, their own special culture. But Matt Ward made everybody follow the Codex, which turned the Ultramarines from Blue Boys with Roman motive to the all-around best Space Marine chapter out there. Now, this is of course quoting 1d4 chance, so take it with a grain of salt. And overall, most people hate Matt Ward's 5th edition Space Marine Codex. Now, some people speculate that it might have just been an Ultramarines Codex only, but that got changed by Games Workshop. Nevertheless, people hate what Matt Ward did, and he did stuff like declare Marneus Calgar as the spiritual liege to all Space Marine chapters. This, of course, comes with the Ultramarines being the best chapter out there and being so amazing, which, as you can probably imagine, doesn't sit well with a bunch of people. Now, your chapter considers another chapter master to be their leader, almost close to the Emperor himself, which is heresy. There's no doubt about it. That's pure heresy. But you see, at some point Matt Ward would leave Games Workshop and he would come back. Now, he would come back when the Primaris were being born and Guilliman was being brought back. And many people thought that, oh no, Matt Ward is back. He brought in Guilliman. Oh, look at that. It's not his fault. You see, it was not Matt Ward's fault for Guilliman being brought back, which is the funny part. And the hatred that the Ultramarines have after Matt Ward left and he came back and started doing something else comes from different reasons. Matt Ward did the damage. Now the Ultramarines are the golden boys. They're the golden standard. They set the clock and where it starts and where it stops. And then Games Workshop, rather than course correcting and changing what's the main chapter of this edition and so on like they used to, they kind of sit on Ultramarines, and they sit on Ultramarines kind of since then, if you think about it. And that's the problem. Many people hate it because when you always go, there's always Ultramarines being the standard, and of course you can blame Matt Ward for that. But Games Workshop isn't doing anything to correct that. In fact, I think they sadistically like it. They sadistically like putting the Ultramarines on everything and being the main boys. One of the few living Primarchs is brought back, and yeah, everything's nice and dandy. He rules the Empire now. Technically, he rules it in a weird way. While some of us are here alone with our dead Primarchs or missing Primarchs, and we're fiddling with our thumbs around, just hoping that maybe he'll come back this time around. Maybe he's not really dead. Maybe Maybe, I don't know, somebody will ever love us. It feels like every other chapter is more like the Iron Warriors, not resilient or strong-willed, but unloved. In my opinion, that's a very good reason to hate the Ultramarines. The fact that the whole narrative and the whole range now revolves around them, and not around anything else, is a little bit annoying if you're a fan of other chapters. Now, if you're a fan of something else, like Xenos, for example, you better take a hike. Granted, it's not that bad nowadays, because last edition we had Necrons, this edition we have Tyranids, but still, the Ultramarines are still the main focus of things. And narrative-wise, now that Guilliman is back and the Ultramarines feel stronger than ever, it really feels like the whole story is focused on them, or the whole Imperium story is just focused on the Ultramarines, and very little outside interference from other chapters. Hell, we got a few Chaos Primarchs before we got another Imperium Primarch. That says a lot. And that Imperium Primarch is Lionel Johnson, which should have come sooner. I think it should have come before Guilliman, but that's my opinion. Even when we look at something like the Horus Heresy, the Ultramarines are still painted better. Not as good as they are in 40k, because in the Horus Heresy, the spotlight is split among all the other legions. Well, in this case, Imperial Fist and Sons of Horus, but that will change, hopefully. Nevertheless, when you look at the Horus Heresy, you see that the Ultramarines are the most numerous, but that's thanks to absorbing one other legion. And they're not really as perfect as they want. There is an interesting doctrine that they have in the Horus Heresy where they come up with these theories and solutions to them and they apply them on the battlefield, called theoretical practical, which is a nice brain test. But overall, they're not really that bad in the Horus Heresy. They're not the main spotlight like they are in 40k. Now, if you're a Wordbearer fan, you have all the reasons to hate them. They burned your city. Understandably so. Understandably so. But here's another funny thing. When we look at older editions, before Matt Ward came in and ruined everything, we see that the Ultramarines were still the most numerous, and they had the most stable gene seed, and the most chapters spawned off their gene seed. The Ultramarines always had this more important role into it, but I think it was Matt Ward coming in and really pushing the trigger with it that changed it, and Games Workshop never went back on it because apparently that was always the plan. Now, with the 10th edition codex close to us, we learned that the Ultramarines now, all their chapters and gene lines and everything, are more numerous now than they were back during the Horus Heresy, which technically gives Guilliman his own little private army. Same can be said about the Dark Angels, but the Dark Angels are never referred to because nobody loves them. Anyway, and this I think contributes to the hatred. The more the Ultramarines get in the spotlight, the more people hate them, and the more people remember Matt Ward, the more people hate them. And the more the narrative of the Imperium spins around the Ultramarines, the more the people hate them. And the more blue they see when they go to buy Primaris, the more they hate them. Of course, now hating the Ultramarines has become a meme in the world, much as the Heresy meme. So don't take it that serious if you see somebody hating Ultramarines. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.